Hello and welcome back to the Quick Slant on Green Bay Packer Nation and greenbaypackernation.com. Today we have a very special episode and I think an important episode of By the Numbers, so stick around. So I call this episode Step Back from the Ledge. While there are a lot of things that went wrong this season, there are some things we can look at that give us a glimmer of hope. Not even a glimmer of hope, can give us some excitement for the coming season for the Packers. Let's start with the fact that for 8 seasons we've been able to watch the Packers play at least one more game than most teams in the league. Every year we get in, even if you get into the playoffs and are out in the first round, you still get to watch your team play one more game than the rest of the league, and that is there's something to be said about that. Let's talk about the teams that I think 7 losses is pretty much out of the playoffs. Let's talk about the teams that had 7 losses prior to the Packers. The Giants in Week 9. It was a week after their bye week. They had a bye week, had a chance to kind of gather themselves a bit, and the week after their bye week, Week 9, the Giants were out of the playoffs and had no hope and this is just NFC teams, by the way, and they had no hope of making the playoffs, really. The Redskins in Week 13, the Bears in Week 11, surprising since the Bears were really doing atrociously in this season. Tampa Bay, Week 12, they were out of the playoffs. San Francisco fans in Week 7, they were done with the playoffs. And Arizona in Week 13. So the fact that the Packers were out of the playoffs, the fact that the Packers had still a hope of being in the playoffs in Week 15, right down to the wire, is kind of exciting to me. I mean, I know I was disappointed in the outcome of the game, just like you were, but let's kind of take this in perspective. There are a lot of teams, a lot of fans from a lot of teams that just had no hope. And even though we had like an enormous amount of adversity with this team, we still had hope all the way to the end of Week 15. So you gotta give this Packer organization some kudos for keeping the fan base excited, keeping that hope alive for as long as possible, despite monstrous adversity. That is kind of the whole who's out of the playoffs and who's in the playoffs segment of the show. I do want to talk a little bit about some of the positive stats coming out of this season. You know, obviously we're not to the end of the season yet, but there are some pretty impressive stats that I think will surprise you. I know they surprised me. Blake Martinez right now is ranked number 1 in tackles. And that is 8 more than Bobby Wagner. I mean, Bobby Wagner is an outstanding football player, and Blake Martinez has 8 more tackles than he does. I did find it interesting that 2 Cleveland Brown players are in the top 5 in tackles, so that was interesting. But the fact of the matter is, for many years we worried about our inside linebacking core to the extent that we actually had to move Clay Matthews to the inside to kind of shore that up. With Blake Martinez coming on, kind of really coming into his own, I really am excited about the fact that we no longer have to worry a whole lot about our inside linebackers, aside from whether or not they get injured. Green Bay running backs, we've been through the ringer with these guys. We started out with Ty Montgomery as our running back. He's not even a running back. He's a tight end, or he's a wide receiver. and he was our starting running back coming into this season. He got hurt. In comes Williams, who didn't do much of anything. Got injured at the end of the Packers versus the Bears game, the first game, and then on comes Aaron Jones, and he takes up the load. Despite all of that craziness, the Packers are right now ranked number 4 in yards per attempt, and that is, you couple that with the fact that our offensive line has been in disarray almost the entire season. Honestly, that really excites me. Yes, it didn't really... The fact that Aaron came back for one game, this improvement in our run game didn't really have the impact that I had hoped, but I do believe that this kind of impact is going to really take a load off of Aaron going forward. So I'm pretty pumped about the fact that the Packers running backs have been averaging, their yards per attempt average is number 4 in the league. On the Packers defense is number 11 in total yards. We're almost in the top 10 in total yards. We're almost in the top 10 in rushing yards. We're at number 13. We're almost in the top 10 in passing yards. We're at number 11. And we're almost in the top 10 in scoring, number 12. That is, to me, is really impressive. We've been really on this Packer defense all season long because it feels like we're giving up major amounts of yards. And at times we were. However, when you look at the whole spectrum of the season, and we almost have a full season under our belts, when you look at the spectrum of the season, this defense has actually done quite well despite a number of injuries, especially in the defensive backfield. We almost have a top 10 defense despite all of the injuries, and despite the fact that, honestly, with Brett Hundley, and I don't want to disparage Brett Hundley a whole lot because I think the guy did the best he could possibly do. I think he gave his all for this team this season. But despite the fact that Brett and the offense could not often generate enough yardage and chew enough of the clock, this defense was on the field a lot, and they were very tired, and yet they still almost ranked number 10 in some pretty critical stats. So that's kind of by the numbers for today. I just wanted to kind of bring everybody back to reality where this really is not a bad Packer team. We really struggled with a whole lot of stuff this season. It seemed like the stars aligned completely against us this year, but this team really deserves our praise for the effort that they put into trying to get us into the playoffs, where we had a chance to bring that Lombardi trophy back to Titletown where it belongs. So I just wanted to give a shout out to our team and give them some kudos for what they've accomplished this season. And despite the fact that it didn't end the way we wanted it to, they still did a lot of things right. So let me know in the comments below what you think about the positive aspects of this season. And definitely, if you're kind of new here, you haven't subscribed. We'd love to have you subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell notification so when we go live with a new video, you'll get that notification. I don't know if you've noticed in the background, our NFL tailgate party channel has been running in the background. We do tailgate videos, and we'll continue to do tailgating stuff throughout the off season. So jump onto either facebook.com/NFL tailgate party, or if you want to be a patron, you can jump on patreon.com/NTP, and we would love to have you join us on our NFL tailgate party channel. And until the Packers beat the Lions, go Pack, go.